Atascocita High School. So I would like to invite Associate Principal Will Falker up to say a few words about the school to us.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. A lot of great things happening here at Atascocita High School. Just want to focus on a few things outside of our 4 pillars, which are fine arts, athletics, and student involvement and academics. So this year we've had a really trying time this year. And so one of our teachers were diagnosed with cancer. And her name is Deanne Otis. So our secretaries decided they wanted to do something for her. So they started what we call Deanne's Tribe. And so through donations from students and teachers, they were able to raise, as of right now, $7,000 to give to Deanne Otis in her fight against cancer. Also, we had a teacher end up having a stroke in the classroom. Yes, and he is fully recovered. We were able to provide him with the medical attention that he needed. And so we got behind him. He ended up, out of bad things, good things come out of it. So through that, we found out that he had a hole in his heart. So we were able to repair the hole in his heart, which is a birth defect. And so now our kids got behind him on that. And so we raised the most money in the district for the Heart Walk Association, which is this weekend, for $3,000. And finally, Atascocita High School hosts the Deaf Ed program here. So any student that needs Deaf Ed assistance in the district, not only in Humble ISD, but New Caney, Sheldon ISD, they're sent here. And so one of our absolutely fantastic teachers, Mrs. Ashley Green, follows Kirsten Bell on Instagram. And so Kirsten said she would fund 10 educators, anything that they wanted. So initially, Mrs. Green sent out that she needed Deaf Ed textbooks, something that would highlight deaf students in her classroom. They went above and beyond. So Kirsten ended up donating, and all the other people that were following her, over 400 items, books, iPads, and all those other supplies that she needed for the classroom that she was not able just to give to students of Atascocita High School, but surrounding areas as well. So there's a lot of great things going on at Atascocita High School outside of our 4 pillars, but just being a part of this great, amazing community and having those students be part of something bigger than themselves that represents Atascocita High School and the Humble ISD is so amazing to be a part of. So thank you guys so much for letting me speak to y'all. Have a great day.
Just real quick to add to something he just said. Deanne Otis, those of you that have been coming to these meetings for several years, David Otis is the chairman of the Lake Houston Sports and Recreation Foundation. They do the restocking plans for Lake Houston. They do fishing tournaments, youth fishing tournaments, and so forth. Deanne's his wife. So I wanted to make sure you were able to put the names together because David has come and spoke to the group 3 or 4 times about different events that they've done on Lake Houston to help beautify our community and turn the lake back into a true recreational lake, not just a water source. So just for what it's worth, that's who Deanne is, and keep the family in your prayers, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Robert. I'd like to invite Captain Toby Hecker to make his way up here. When our committee met to talk about important things that we thought ought to be discussed at this meeting, we felt like there was just a lot of uncertainty about safety in our community and certainly amongst our young people. And so we thought we would see if Toby would speak a little bit on that this morning.
Sure. Hello. They asked me to give an update on especially underage drinking in recent events of the crash that happened 6-8 weeks ago now. And since that time, it's kind of brought it to the forefront, but it really was never in the back front, if that makes sense. The TABC is out here a lot. We work with them on several different task forces and different plans of action that they do, including hitting these convenience stores and also the bars for underage drinking. And since that time, we've arrested 9 or 10 clerks in the area for selling to underage people buying drinks. And to do that, we have to have a minor actually go in there and buy the alcohol. It can't be someone with a fake ID because they're not underage. It actually has to be someone under an age. So we actually vent different Usually they're 17 to 19 years old. We'll send them in there and to buy the alcohol, and then when they come out, we'll get a warrant, come back and arrest them. A big part of that is after they sell it, it's not only, it's a criminal offense, but it's also an administrative offense to TABC, and it gives them an opportunity to go after their liquor license. Now, usually it has to happen more than once, because normally it's not the owner that's selling it, it's an employee. And so it's hard to go after someone's business because of an employee. But if we show a pattern in that same place, a pattern of going on after it, then it gives them the right to go after them and try to take away their liquor license. But it is an ongoing issue. And they also want me to ask a few things. Well, if you have questions about that before I go to the next object, anything about the underage drinking or what you've seen or concerns or problems in the area? Okay. They also asked me to talk a little bit on some safety issues, especially when we're coming up to the holiday season, on shopping, how to stay safe, what you're doing. And one of the biggest things is when we go out shopping, usually we go out for a while. We'll go into one store, we'll take our bags, and we'll go put them in our car, and we'll go to the next store and come back up things back in our car. There's a lot of people that are watching that. So if you're in, say, the mall, you're in one of these strip centers that have 4 or 5 different shops in it, and you go into one, you want to go out to someplace else before you walk in the next store, so you don't carry the bags in there. If you carry your bags out to your car, especially if you're in the mall, get in it, drive around the mall once, and go back and park, because they're thinking you left. They're not looking at that. They're going to go to the next person. If you go and carry 4 or 5 bags of stuff into your car and then go back in the mall, they know what's in there. And they're going to wait till the security guard goes past or people aren't there. They're going to break the window, open your trunk, and take what you put in there. So it helps a lot if you just get in your car and drive around. Even take 2 or 3 minutes, go to the other side of the mall and park and go in a different door. It usually cuts that off. What kind of questions or concerns do y'all have in the area? Anything? In your businesses, things you're seeing? For this holiday season, the constable, Mark Herman, also has put together a task force. And he's done this every year for the last few years. But you'll see a lot more deputies in and around the shopping centers, in and around Walmart, Target, going around, checking on people's cars, making sure that people see us there. Ma'am? Those are still quite common. In fact, we just had one 2 days ago over, actually, just on the other side of 59 at a gas station. Very common. Whenever you put your credit card or debit card into the gas pumps, always take it before in there and shake the one that's on front of there, see if it moves, see if it pulls out. Don't just stick it in there, because they're getting real good to where it looks exactly the same. But if you give it a little tug or a little thing, it's going to come out, and that's how you can tell, because it'll look exactly like the one that's supposed to be on there. Not really. It's constant. It's a thing, but not an uptick at all. No. But some of them are really good. Some of them aren't. Some of them you go to and someone took it and the words aren't even right. We had one a couple days ago that took $300 bills, and if you flipped it over, it had little Chinese symbols on the back of it. But people fall for it. Robert? Yeah, it's during the holiday seasons you're going to see more, and a lot of time it's because people are shopping. They're doing their Christmas shopping while you're doing yours, and so I always most of the BMVs, or the people breaking the cars, and most of the criminal mischief stuff of people going around and just causing problems is usually directly proportional to the number of 14 to 16-year-old kids you have living in the area at the time. And so it goes like this. Depends how many people are there and how many of those kids are. And during the holidays, you see a little bit more of it, just like you do in the summer, because they're out of school. They have more time. And so if they don't have something constructive to do, they're going to find something else to do. But really not any more this month than we had last month or the month before. It stays pretty constant. And mostly what we do is drive around these big rolling billboards and try to push them somewhere else. It's hard to catch a lot of those type of things when you're in the police cars, because they can see you from a while away. And so we do everything we can, not only to control the crime, but in reality to push it somewhere else. So it's not in this community, push it somewhere else. Yeah, that's the fastest. That's the easiest. And I always tell people 911 is the easiest to remember. It's not the fastest way to get a hold of police. Like in this area, if you call our dispatch direct, which is 281-376-3472, Again, it's 281-376-3472. You're connected directly to the person that's going to be on the radio, which gets right to the officers on the street. 911, when you call them, they take your information, find out what you need, they'll put it in the computer, they'll forward it on to us in the area, or if it's in the city, they'll send it to Houston, and then their dispatchers will put it out over the radio. And so usually it's about 2 or 3 minute faster response time if you call that number directly than if you call 911. Correct. Yep. And you just put that in your cell phone as police. You can call anywhere. And if it's not in the precinct 4 area, they'll send it straight over to wherever it's at. All right. Any other questions before I take too much more time?
Yeah, I just want to say you guys are doing a great job. We live over in Walden.
I appreciate it.
I had talked to Cy Gamble.
Good. I'll let them know. Let them know. He's been around a long time. He does a great job. Like I said, the biggest thing we do is try to, be seen and push it out somewhere else. So it doesn't make it an easy target. All right, if you have any other questions, just let me know. Like I said, you can always call the Humble office that's where I'm the captain out of, and any concerns you have, just let us know and we'll address it. Thanks.
Thank you, Captain Hecker. Next up is Mark Mitchell. He is the president of the Humble Area Economic Development Partnership, and he tells me that he has some really great updates for us today. So I'm just going to turn it over and let him go.
Thank you, Nancy. First of all, for all of you that were here a couple of Bizcoms ago where I actually accidentally accosted Commissioner Moorman, this time I got it right. I found Garth and I accosted Garth, so everything's good now. I'm going to take just a few minutes to talk about the Harvey Small Business. Whoa, I'll come over here now. The Harvey Small Business Grant Program. And we've been running the program since March of this year, and the program started as a result of the Lake Houston Area Relief Fund actually holding back dollars for businesses. There is no FEMA for businesses in the local community, and so a lot of businesses we were finding were going through the SBA disaster recovery loan process, and they were struggling. I get data feeds now for companies that are going through the SBA application process, and we still have hundreds of businesses that are still in process. And so it's been 14 months since Harvey, and we literally still have hundreds of businesses that are still in process with their loans. We had a significant number of companies deny. We had a significant number of companies that had withdrawn from the process. So we knew that we needed to find some mechanism to support our businesses locally. So we started the dialogue with the Lake Houston Area Relief Fund, which was essentially was Insperity and Ham and the Lake Houston Chamber, and essentially negotiated with them to hold back some dollars. And then one of our other partners introduced us to the folks at the Rebuild Texas Fund, which essentially is the Dell Foundation. And so when they found out that we had a pot of dollars that were raised locally, they actually matched those dollars for us to be able to start this program. We essentially defined the guidelines, the qualification parameters, the application, the compliance documents, all that good stuff, presented that to the Rebuild Texas Foundation or fund, and they essentially matched our funds, and we started out with about $225,000. And so far, we've pushed forward, and you see that $100,000 milestone. Market Cleaners was our $100,000 milestone. We've done a few grants subsequent to that, but we still have a lot more work to do. So part of this is a commercial for the program as well. Our partners, we talked about Lift Fund. We started doing loans, zero interest loans with Lift Fund back in October of last year. So we were a guinea pig for Lift Fund. They're a 13-state CDFI, Community Development Finance Institution, and they specialize in providing finance opportunities for small businesses up to $5.5 million. And so they've helped several businesses in the Lake Houston area, and they essentially were the ones that introduced us to the Rebuild Texas Fund folks. And Jen and I went and met with them probably 9 or 10 months ago, and they essentially vetted us and made sure we were legitimate. And then they pushed us forward relative to the grant award. And we still know that there's lots more help that's needed out there in the broader community. And so probably over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been kind of talking back and forth with Humble Rotary and Humble Rotary Foundation. And so 2 Mondays ago, I think, they actually brought me a nice big check. You can't really, I think it's on the next slide here. If you, oh, here we go. So right here, this is Chris Elliott and Pam McNair. And Pam, if you do the queen wave back there, they actually provided us with a grant of $20,000 to add with our existing pot of monies. The really cool thing about that is Dell Foundation Rebuild Texas gave us another $50,000 for matching funds. And so that $20,000 that Humble Rotary provided for us is going to be matched by another $20,000 from the Dell Foundation, along with La Madeleine, who gave us $2,500 when they did their grand opening. All the proceeds that they raised during their practice runs as far as dinners and lunches that were served, they actually donated that to the Humble Area Economic Development Foundation. And another kudos to Nancy Shortsleeve. Where's Nancy? Oh, Nancy's the one that gave me the mic. So they were gracious enough, and Jenna and I pestered them enough to where they actually got the board back together, and they essentially are serving as our 501c3. We couldn't run the funds through the chamber or EDP. It had to be a 501c3. So we're actually running all the funds through the Humble Area Economic Development Foundation, and it was created for exact scenarios just like this, where we knew that we needed a mechanism to be able to get these funds back out the door. So the pictures that you see here, we've provided funds to manufacturers, to service companies, air conditioning companies, doctors' offices, both general practice, chiropractors, restaurants. I think everybody recognizes Mr. Rafa, Pet Ranch, Marble Slab, Pretty Little Things. I mean, this is small print up here, but these are the companies that we've helped thus far. These are the companies that are kind of in queue pushing forward. And what I need from all of you is really some support and assistance in identifying companies that are in our 6 zip codes. So 77044, 338, 339, 396, 345, and 346. All companies that are in those 6 zip codes, that's one of the eligibility criteria. Next is, were you in business for at least 1 year before Hurricane Harvey? So you had to be open August of 16 in order to qualify. The first round of funding that we did, we didn't have that as a stipulation, but Dell came back and said, look, we're not in the business of supporting startups. We have to know that these were viable ongoing concerns before the hurricane. So you have to have been in business for at least a year before Hurricane Harvey. As far as documentation is concerned, we need 3 months of personal bank statements, 3 months of business bank statements, and your most recently filed tax return. Lots of folks had to ask for extensions on their 17 returns because of Harvey, so we understand that. So we'll accept 16 returns as well, and then they're off to the races as far as the process is concerned. We've got a few people that serve on our review panel. We've got a very specific matrix relative to rating. Are you open and operational? How many folks did you lose from an employee perspective? How many have you rehired? What's your employment base? And then all the other supporting documentation. And we essentially rate that, and the grants are anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. And so, again, it's not SBA money, but we've helped about 3 or 4 dozen companies so far that without these dollars we would not have been able to help them. We've still got about $125,000 left. So if you can identify companies that fit that parameter, send them my way, and we're more than happy to put them in the queue process. Now, the funds can only be used for purchases. They can't be used for working capital or payroll. So essentially, if you're replacing computers that were lost as a result of the flood, if you're replacing furniture and fixtures, if you're having to remodel your facility, we've got some tenants that were in triple net leases where just replacing their flooring was $15,000, and they don't even own the building. And so a lot of companies dug into their 401ks, they dug into their retirement programs, they dug into their savings accounts, they borrowed money from family and friends. And so what we're really trying to do is help these companies get back right so we can push forward. And we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, we're still talking to these companies, and we're still not back to where we are. If you look at 16 numbers, and then the dip in 17, and now 18, we're still not back to where we were in terms of the overall 16 numbers. And so we've still got lots of folks in the area that are not back in their homes, and so that means that retail numbers are depressed a little bit as far as kind of getting back to where we need to be. So that's something else to acknowledge as well, is we still have to make sure that we're helping our friends and neighbors kind of get back into their homes. There's still subdivisions where the percentage of folks not back in are 30, 40, even approaching 50%, so there's still a lot of work to be done. And I know everybody was nervous yesterday with all the rain that we got. The good thing is you've all seen the dredging that's going on out in Lake Houston. We've got our fingers crossed between Councilman Martin, Representative Huberty, the governor, FEMA, the Army Corps, that we may see an expansion of the dredging that's taking place right now. If we can get an expansion of the declaration relative to what's going on right now, we'll know probably more from Councilman Martin and Representative Huberty over the next few weeks relative to how that's panning out, but we're very hopeful that that's going to be something that pushes forward positively. So with that said, if anyone has any questions relative to, and I've got one right up front.
Could you send, or could we get access to the criteria for those businesses? And maybe we didn't see that, because I do have a couple in mind.
Okay.
I'd like to send it to.
Absolutely, and there's hard copies, probably about a dozen or so over there, so I'll make sure you get one before you leave. And then the application and the grant criteria is on lakehoustonedp.org/grants. And so you can actually download the grant from the website, and all the qualifying criteria is on the website. And we've got electronic versions of it as well, so if you'd like to have it, and you can't find it on the website, just send me an email and we'll get it out to you. And then we've got hard copies over there as well. Anything else on the program? And I will say just a quick commercial just on the other activity that we've got going on. Within the Lake Houston area from an economic development perspective, you've probably seen the property on 59 frontage where the Rooms to Go is. And so that's all owned by Archway Properties, and we've got 310,000 square feet of spec space that is under construction right now. There's probably another 650,000 square feet of construction spec space that's going to go up to the south of that, closer to Will Clayton. And so just that one patch right there is 1 million square feet. That doesn't include the projects that are ongoing with Generation Park. They've got a couple of big projects that they're working on and looking at. And so again, we've still got that type of activity going on right now. The tough thing has been marketing our area because of Hurricane Harvey. We've had to promote the areas that were high and dry and say, look, if it didn't flood during Harvey, it's never going to flood. That was a 5,000-year storm. And if you're looking at Generation Park, or if you're looking at Archway Properties, Park Air 59, those are solid places to go and dedicate your building. But if you were not in those areas, it's been a tougher sell for the Lake Houston area because some areas had 12, 14 feet of water. And so we've got to, again, continue our rebranding of the area and essentially keep pushing forward on the mitigation and remediation relative to Harvey. We've got to get the dredging done. And for me, the most important thing is the new gates or additional gates on Lake Houston. We can do all the dredging that we want to. Lake Houston can only release at 33,000 cubic feet per second. Lake Conroe can release at upwards of 110, 120,000 cubic feet per second. And during the storm, we had 430,000 cubic feet per second of water going through Lake Houston, hence the 10 feet over the Weir Dam for 2 days. And essentially that water just backed up into the Lake Houston area, and we've got to make sure we stay vigilant relative to our elected officials and just our federal agencies understanding that we are still not out of the woods yet, and we really don't have a 5-year window before we get those gates put on. So to the extent we may be reaching out to you for help pushing forward for that bigger picture item, and I'm sure Councilman Martin will let us know how that pushes forward as well. So that's my presentation. Appreciate everyone listening, and then I'll hand it over back to Nancy, and next speaker's up.
Thank you. I just want to share one quick comment. We each year have a breakfast where we invite back all the past chairmen of the board for the chamber, and we had that breakfast last week. And a gentleman who was the chairman of the board a few years back came to the meeting, and he said, well, I just have to since now he works downtown Houston. He used to work out in this area. And he said, I just have to tell y'all that I was at I think it was a luncheon, and he said he introduced himself to the guy sitting next to him, and it was Mark Mitchell, who told him that he was economic development in our area. And his mouth hit the floor, because all those years ago, he had been one of many who had been instrumental in trying to start an economic development here in our area with not full success. And so we are almost at the point now where we are a Chamber of Commerce who doesn't know anything but to have an economic development branch. And so I just think that's something to celebrate. And if you do have ways to support or connect to the ED, please continue to do so. I would like to introduce Rhonda Arnold to come forward. She is the Director of Community Relations at the Houston Airport System, and we're delighted to have her here today for an update.
Hello, everybody. How you doing this morning? I bring you greetings on behalf of the Mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner, and my boss, Mario Diaz. It is an honor to be with you today to tell you a little bit about what we're doing at the airport. Some of you know that the Houston Airport System is comprised of 3 airports. We have the big airport, which is Bush. We have the regional international airport, which is Harvey. And we have the reliever port, which is Ellington. So most of you here today will be interested in what's going on at Bush. This year at Bush, we're planning to have over 55 Thank you very much. Or he went to Singapore, or they just got back from Ethiopia. Those are not fun trips. I've been on them. They are trade missions where you have meetings that begin at 7:30 a.m. and they do not end until you have a state dinner at 8. And it's all of that, grinning when you're not tickled. No, I'm kidding. It is, it is all of that networking and developing and learning what their company or their businesses can do to come to Houston that will be beneficial to our airports. We have over 180 destinations worldwide, over 69 countries. I have that here, yes. Including 69 international destinations, with 70% of them in Latin American countries. Now, that is important because a lot of the economic boom is going to South America and Central America, and we're trying to get that back over here. So it is important for us to have the networking capabilities and to meet with the business leaders over there. It is also important for us to have businesses with minorities and women. Sorry, guys. To give them, they call it a disadvantaged business enterprise, and it's a federally mandated